If you're too fat to model for swimwear or bikinis, you could lose some weight or you could model for plus size. And if you're too big and muscular, too barrel chested to model for running, you could model for football. But what do you do when your gray hairs start popping in and those wrinkles start to show up around your eyes? Are you going to subscribe to that hair dye company that you're now going to be eating into your overall profits as a professional model because you just want to hold on to that youthful exuberance that you look like? When you think you're past your prime model time, you are probably wrong. And I'm going to tell you exactly why that is. I remember when I first started modeling, when I first signed with my agency, I asked a question. I said, "Hey, who are the most booked models here? And how frequently are they working?" I got that answer, and they pointed me to these two ladies that had been modeling for who knows how long at that time, but they were the top models at that point with the agency. So I ring them up. I said, "Hey, I'd love to buy you some coffee, pick your brain a little bit. I just signed. I'm a newbie, and I hear you're the shit here. So I would love to learn from you." Luckily for me, they were willing and they met up for coffee with a stranger. I asked my questions. I got a lot of answers that were what you would assume the typical model would answer. That is just like, okay, this isn't really getting me anywhere. But there were some very valuable nuggets in there as well that even to this day, I feel like, yeah, that probably helped me out quite a bit. But I bring this up because one of those gals I know for sure is still modeling. And she had been already in the game long before me. Here we are 10 plus years later. She's still in the game. But in that road between those 10 years from when I first met her at that coffee shop to, present day, 10 plus years later, on that path, there was a very interesting moment with her specifically. Now, to put this into perspective, a lot of models, especially with the same agency, will cross paths over the similar jobs, same jobs. I mean, a bulk of probably 15 or 20 of us saw each other almost every week or every other week for years, right? And she was one in this group. So we all get pretty close. We would go to the gym together or something like this. If, oh, you go to this gym, I go there too. Cool, let's go get a workout in. You want to go grab a bite to eat after this shoot or after this show, whatever it is, you start to develop kind of a little crew. Even if you don't love everybody, everybody just kind of hangs with each other at some point. And in this era, I remember I invited her to basically the new gym that had just opened up right near my basically right near my house. It was like a mile and a half away from my house. I invited her, "Hey, let's go get a workout in. I'm doing a bunch of stuff." She used to do track and I did track and I'm doing a bunch of plyometric workouts and she's like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." Up until this moment when we walk into this gym, I was under the impression that she was pretty new, fresh out of college. And so was the rest of the model crew, and so was the rest of production and photographers and everybody in town, right? And we go, she has to get a guest pass, right? I have a membership at this gym. She has to get just a day pass. And to do that, they need your ID. So she hands over the ID, and whoever was checking, getting her set up, said something about her birth date out loud and her birth year specifically. And there was this moment where I was like, and I look at her because it was like, wait a minute. And she was so just flushed with guilt. And like everything about it, you could just see was so uncomfortable for her. And for me, I was so taken aback because she had sort of made it a point over years to say how old she was, which was a complete lie. And so it was just this moment of like, damn, who is this person and what else have you lied about? If you're lying about just your age, because here's the thing in modeling, you can, same with acting, you can portray an age range, even on your casting profile and things like this. There's questions like, what age range can you portray? So for myself, I shave all this off and I can portray somebody that's like 20 years old. But with this in, especially if it's a bit longer, and I have like, I don't know if you can see this, I have like gray hairs and everything like this in here. I can portray somebody, up to like 40 years old. So like 20 years old to 40. And that's the age range I have listed on my casting sites and profile. So it's like, why do you need to lie about your age? if you have the portrayable age range on there, why are you lying to everybody around town about your age? Especially because if you book a big job, they need your documentation. If you're going to go international or you're going to go under their payroll rather than them paying you as a contractor or the model as a contractor, they're going to need your information. So it's going to get out at some point, right? Why would you lie about your age? So I literally asked this question because, again, this is the same person that I sat down with that was like the deity of this world. You're the greatest at this agency and you're crushing it. And I want to do the same thing. And it was the same person that I'm looking at now. And I go, what else have you lied about? In my head, this is what I'm thinking. But what I asked was like, why are you lying about your age? Why are you telling all these people lies that you're, 24 years old when in reality you're like 33, 32 at the time or whatever? And the response was, you know, when people know how old you are, they start to treat you differently and then you won't get booked for stuff. Like I want to work and I don't want people to look at me differently. Now that's, to be fair, to each their own. Everybody has their own perspective on aging and whatever these things look like, right? For me, I am not a fan of cosmetic surgeries. Like plastic surgery is a terrific thing for me when it's functional, right? It's something that, my eyes are so saggy that the skin is hanging over, I can't see, right? I want to get a little eye lift or, deviated septum, I can't breathe, things like that, that it's real functional. To me, I love it, makes total sense. But just, oh, and Jack, get rid of these little wrinkles here because I don't like them. To me, that's just not my jam. It's not living. It's not life. You know what I mean? Like we're here, we get this one chance at it, live it and experience each phase of it. It's like going through a video game and like, oh, I'm just going to skip all these levels. Maybe after you've played the game, you want to skip a level or two that you recall and you already been there, done it. But this is our first time going through this, unless, you're like, I'm reincarnated. But I want to experience each level. That's me personally. Again, to each their own. To her, obviously, staying young meant a lot to her, at least in the appearance of everyone else. So she would lie and she would lie and she would lie and she would lie. And who knows what else she did? I didn't go that deep into it. But to me, it was like that was so off-putting because I don't want to be around deceitful people like that, especially if you're going to lie about something so trivial. Now, to her, it was probably a big deal, right? The way she explained it. If people know my age, I won't get booked. If that's the belief, then absolutely that's a scary thing. And a little lie about your age probably makes sense. But to me, I think it's total bullshit. Here's my take on this whole thing after watching people like her and so many others for years either lie about their age, go and get injections and all these things to try to look a certain age or younger or whatever it may be, and different plastic surgeries to try to look younger. For years of watching people do this, that is one method you could go about your life and try to stick with the prime time of your modeling, but you're fighting nature. You're literally fighting what is naturally happening. Good luck with that. The next part to this is when I was in my mid 20s and these people started to, they're lying about their age and they're doing all these things, I went a different direction. And where we stand today, I would wager to say that I feel like I'm winning in this, the fork in the road. I feel like I'm winning this. And here's what I did. Late or mid 20s, I start seeing people in their later 20s kind of aging out of the sports and fitness modeling, which is what we were doing at the time. That was like the bulk of it, sports, fitness. And I watch these people, we've been booking at Nike all the time and, Reebok, Adidas, Under Armour, whatever. I watch these people start to phase out. And it was like they're just not around as much and they're just not booking jobs as much. And it was because they were aging out. The problem with this is most people try to hang on like she was doing. Instead of what I did was, where are all the people going after this that are highly successful models? What are they doing? And what do they look like? Are they dyeing their hair? Do they have that subscription to the hair dye monthly? Is that, is that what they're doing? It's eating into your profits, but hey, it's getting you booked. So a trade-off here. Or are they completely owning it, right? Am I seeing a lot of people go from young mid 20s athletic and all this stuff looking very young to straight up silver fox? Is that what the transition is? What is it? So I start to look into this and I realize most people from late 20s to mid 30s, there's this gap because most models are trying to hold on to the youth. And so I thought, what if I started to lean into the later years earlier than everybody else? Because I had less competition there and it still gives me the skill set of playing a diverse range. I could play the 20-year-old athlete, or I could play a mid 30s, 35, 30, 39, 40 maybe year old person, right? So when the gray started coming in, I started to embrace these things. And I started to make sure I had shots in my portfolio that showed this, because now it's easy for a makeup artist to cover up some grays, right? That's easy. You're right. I don't know what they use, but little mascara or whatever, right? Cover up the grays and boom. Now I'm young again. And then it's like, I also can dip into the older age range things. So the aging out of your prime model time, it's a bunch of BS, honestly. Like, you can play that route, but you're going to be losing so much trust. I know, I mean, for myself, I lost almost absolute trust in that moment because she also still kind of tried to lie to me. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like, we're literally going to the gym. Like, I'm not here trying to book you for a shoot because of your age or anything. Like, we're just here for a workout. I don't care. I don't give a shit how old you are, frankly. But you've lost a lot of trust for me because you could have kept it real, before this moment, before being found out. Now I have to question, what else have you been lying about? And this will absolutely bleed into the rest of the industry and everybody else, because it is kind of a small world. Once you're in it, it is kind of a small world. So rather than deceiving and trying to hold on to the lies and remember, oh, here's, my alias and this whole new persona, like I'm a CIA or some, absolute undercover spy in the modeling industry. Rather than doing this, just keep it real, embrace where you're going. We're all getting older. That's what happens in life. But try to get ahead of this to where you can dip in both buckets, the younger you and the older you. If you're that big body person and you're like, I can only really model football stuff, well, check your beliefs. If your belief is, I can only book when people believe I'm 23 years old, you're not going to book a lot of stuff. But if your belief is, I can book things at 23, but I can also book older and I can book older than that as I keep getting older, then you're going to look for those opportunities, right? It's your, what is it? Your reticular activation system, right? Whatever you are attuned to, you see more of. If I say, hey, look for the red car, the red convertible car, you're going to see them everywhere. If I say, look for the silver minivan, you're going to see them everywhere because that's what's active in your brain. If you think, I can only book when I look young, and the moment somebody says, hey, yeah, you look a little too old, you can't really do much about it other than plastic surgery, right? Not an enjoyable thing, not something that I recommend. To each their own, do your thing, but wouldn't you rather, doesn't it make more sense to just plan ahead and say, maybe the sports and fitness thing is fading, but there's another arena of modeling that I'd be a killer fit for, that I could crush it in, and I'm going to get a head start on that. So all the people that book and shoot that sort of thing, we can start to get to know each other, and all the photographers and directors and art directors and clients and all that stuff, I'll get in with them while I still have consistent work back here at the younger age. Doesn't that make more sense, to where you get a longer time period to be able to book that next phase, the older phase of things, rather than try to hold off, hold off, hold off, and now that window is only this big? And then what do? You're scrambling. You barely make it in there, and now you're phasing out of that. It doesn't make sense. At least to me, it doesn't. But hey, do what you want. I'm just here giving my 2 cents on what has worked incredibly well for me through the years, and what I've watched countless models phase out in an industry where people, their career average is a year and a half. I'm over a decade into this, and I've been making a living off of this the whole time. I feel like this is something that could be paid more attention to, and a lot of people have it wrong. Embrace your age, look for the opportunities with your age, the representation of how you can show up on camera as a 20-year-old or as a 40-year-old. Look for these things for yourself, whatever phase of your life you're at. Embrace the aging process. This life is beautiful. We're going through it together as a one-time run, like a video game. Play each level of it. Don't skip the levels.